Y'all time is up. When I say y'all time is up, boy, this shit over. You see it? Look around. Y'all time up, man. I don't know what else to fucking tell you, man. Bend over and kiss your ass goodbye. Your time is up. Message!
Well, take a look at this. A green fireball was spotted in the skies of California, Arizona, and Nevada last night. NASA and the American Meteor Society confirmed it was indeed a meteor, saying they received more than 200 reports of sightings. Many people also say they heard sonic booms. The American Meteor Society says it was likely an asteroid fragment the size of a baseball or basketball entering Earth's atmosphere and breaking apart. It apparently aligns with a phenomenon known as the February fireballs.
And it's kind of this increased activity of fireball meteors that happens in February. Just year to year, when we're maintaining this database, we see more activity in February. There's no meteor showers in February, and there's really no explanation scientifically for why this occurs. But we do see it, anecdotally, we're seeing it right now.
Although NASA says they are unrelated, this is the third fireball spotted in the U.S. in just 6 days. They say the first was seen over Ohio and heard across the Northeast, and another was spotted in Houston, Texas over the weekend. Just goes to show Mother Nature full of surprises.
Does anybody else feel like they're going insane right now? Your gas prices are going up. Healthcare is unaffordable. Your food prices are ridiculous. 50-year mortgages is a thing. Everything around you is fake. Your food's fake. Poison. Water's poison. Sky's poison. Your E-Files people are still among us, ruling over us, knowing what they've done. We're still going to work. Every day, same routine. The burnout, man. I just see it on everybody's faces. You can't talk to nobody. Nobody at work wants to have a conversation about what's going on in the world. And then you go to a gas station or a grocery store and you just see people. It's like zombies. It's like everybody's under a spell. Just burnt out, oblivious to what's going on. I mean, every freaking day is breaking news. It's got to the point where we've taken our kids out and homeschooled them, move back to our property, learn how to homestead, grow our own food, prepare for the end of the world. We were called crazy for that. I mean, can you not see the signs written on the wall? This thing that we're doing right now, the system that we've lived our whole life, it's unsustainable, people. It's not going to last forever. And we're almost $40 trillion in debt. There'll be some hard times coming. And we're going to have to get uncomfortable. And I just hope everybody wakes up to it. Gets a little bit ahead before it happens.
I feel like the Lord gives us warnings before war comes. If you look in the Bible, you can see that God gave warnings to prophets and to dreamers. And I have been having dreams, and they have been so many warnings that there's war coming to America. Before I started having these dreams, I didn't really believe that the end time or war would happen in my lifetime. I've heard of it, but I just didn't think that it would happen in my lifetime. And I feel as though God started giving me these dreams because he wanted me to know that he is coming soon. And I believe that I'm going to share these in hope that you too can start to realize that God's coming soon. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into this dream. In this dream that I was having, the location was very important to me. I just knew that I was in a desert, and it was a suburbs in the desert. It kind of felt like maybe Arizona or California. I know that it was livable, but there was also the heat of desert sands, and it just had you could look down and see sand, you could look out and see sand, there were palm trees. And then everyone was stepping outside of their houses, looking up into the sky. And as we were looking up, there was this beautiful, beautiful rainbow. And the rainbow was so vibrant. It was so vibrant that it lit up the sky in this like pink hue. And I was like, wow. And I had my kids. I was like, look, guys, there's a rainbow. And we looked up, and then we kind of turned the corner, and it was like an M, like a McDonald's arch. There were two rainbows, and they were just so beautiful. And everyone was coming outside to look at the rainbows. And then all of a sudden, bursting through the rainbow comes 3 or 4 missiles, and they took everyone by surprise. I just remember everyone was like, what is that? What is that? And so we were looking around, and then I turn around and I look behind me, and I'm like, it's a missile, it's a bomb. And everyone's just running, and you could hear frantic screaming, and we're running. And then all of a sudden, the missile, I can feel the heat of it hit behind me, and it hits the ground. And then there's just billows of heat and sand. And in my dream, I could feel it so much that it still sticks with me. And so the dream shifts, and it's all of a sudden I'm in my house, and I see this foreign lady, and she speaks English, but it's not American accent. And she's searching my house for possible weapons. That was all I knew. I just knew that she was looking for a weapon. And I woke up.
while y'all just out there don't even give a damn what's going on around the country, around the world, with the war with Iran and the United States. All these countries, these powerful nations are about to go up against each other, and you guys are just living your life, don't care, ignoring it. Then all of a sudden you out with your friends, your family, you're probably a few hours away from home, then boom, lights go out, communications go down. Everybody cars start working. Everybody start immediately panicking. But it don't just start with all the lights going off right away. It starts when everybody realizes that their cars don't work. Your electric car and your gas car, yeah, all that will not work. Your phone will say no signal on it. That is when everything starts to sink in, to sit in. There's no panic right now, but some people will start panicking. Then more, then more, then more. When people realize that the lights ain't coming back on and it's dark as balls outside, dark as hell, you can't even see in front of you, 2 feet in front of you, now you're just panicking. Now everybody's running to the grocery store, looting, crime rate going up, killing going up, everything going up. Complete panic. But these are only for the people that will panic, that are not prepared. The people that are prepared, like me and other large groups of people are prepared, we like say we knew this shit was coming. We try to fucking warn you guys, but you just say, brush it off like, ain't nothing. Then boom, lights go out. Everything is out. Now, everybody's worst nightmare has became true. No lights, no communications. You can't keep your food good. You cannot keep your food cold. All your food in your refrigerator going spoiled. If you ain't got a generator. Most of y'all don't got generators. Most of you guys got generators, but most of you guys got the wrong generators. Yes, I say wrong generators. Most of y'all households got generators that run on gas, that is loud as hell, to the point where somebody outside can hear that shit. Red flag right then and there. If you got a generator that is super loud and it runs on gas, you are in a world of hurt on a whole nother unthinkable level, because what's going to happen is once everybody in your neighborhood runs out of food, water, and they can hear your generator outside, because it will be quiet as fuck outside. They will hear that shit from like a whole block away. And they realize that you got power, you're keeping your food cold, your microwave working, a nice hot meal working, your heat working, your air conditioner's working pretty well with the generator. Oh yeah, they coming straight for your shit with their weapons. And they're gonna go in there, kill you, your entire family, take your food, take your generator. Because now it's all about survival. It's all about food and water and shelter. Survival.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, And by that time, we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. The truth is about the Middle East is, had there been no oil there, it would be like Africa. Nobody is threatening to intervene in Africa. The problem is the opposite. We keep asking for people to intervene and stop it. And there's no question that the presence of petroleum throughout the region has sparked great power involvement. Whether that was the specific motivation for the coup or not, I can't tell you, but there's always been this attitude that somehow we could intervene and use force in the region.
You go back to 9/11, and when Wesley Clark said we're gonna invade 7 countries in 5 years, what you were talking about were the countries where those central banks were not on board to do programmable money, and their governance structures were not on board with essentially, because of Epstein, I'll call it the Rockefeller Rothschild model. There was an effort to say, okay, we're going to basically assert control of the central banks in those countries. That's my interpretation. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing so much tension around Iran is because Iran right now is the big leakage in the system.
How?
So
it's not about their nukes?
No. Iran's central bank counts. One of the reasons it counts is because their oil and energy is very important, including for China.
Yeah.
And that's very important in the BRICS system. What the BRICS system is trying to do is to create independent payment systems. But if you're going to come out with programmable money, with digital IDs that are interoperable globally, and programmable money that controls in each jurisdiction centrally, you can't afford leakage. And so you've got way too much leakage in the system to proceed with what they're trying to do. And Iran and the BRIC nations are a sticking point. And certainly Iran's oil, feeding China gives China greater independence.
So you think that one of the motives behind toppling all these governments was the creation of the control grid we're talking about now?
Right. So if you go back, so you had the wonderful Richard Warner on your show.
Yeah.
And Richard has a book called The Princes of Xi'an, which is about the sort of effort to take over the Japanese central bank. And I think what you're looking at, I think part of the state of play with both Russia and Iran is how are you going to make sure that those central banks are entirely in the system?
So, that was an amazing interview. And he told the story about writing this book on the Japanese central bank. I can't imagine a more obscure topic from my non-economically minded standpoint. It'd be like writing a book on postcards from the Falkland Islands. It's like, okay, a book on the Japanese central bank. And he said, well, actually, they suppressed it. I couldn't get it published in the United States, and you can't get a copy. And that's like checkable, so I checked it. You can't get a copy of that book. It's really hard.
I think you can order from its publisher right now.
Okay.
Right.
But, why would someone try to suppress
Because it shows you the truth. It takes you right into the secret governance system, and it shows you the primary mechanism by which they implement policy.
Yeah. Well, it's always the things you're not allowed to say are probably the important things, right? I mean, whenever they penalize you for having a thought, you're probably on the right track.
Well, it's one of the critical train tracks of control. So it's what I call the third rail. So I used to finance transit systems and train systems. So, a lot of these systems have 2 tracks that the wheels go on, and then they have a third rail that the power line runs on, and you get a train that flips over and sucks the energy from the third rail. So a lot of the things that really operate the third rail are very invisible. And for example, in central banking, to talk about tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 capital at the BIS and the banks, there's nothing more boring. It's designed to absolutely...
I just fell asleep in the middle of that sentence.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Is it boring by design?
The way you're taught to talk about it is boring by design. It's like the mechanisms of the legal system. If you look at the mechanisms of civil procedure or criminal procedure, it can, and you get into the weeds on it, it can be very boring unless you understand the application, and that can make it very interesting. But the capital, most people don't understand the capital's sort of regulatory system, and it can get very, very boring.
Can you just, for people who haven't seen your previous talk, explain what the control grid is, what it looks like, and what it means?
So the control grid is a process or an infrastructure that allows digital technology to be used to assert phenomenal surveillance and control of people.
Yes.
And at the very heart of it is what I call programmable money. So it's money that is no longer just a currency. It's money that comes with a set of rules that can be surveilled and forced. So imagine back in the pandemic, if your money, if I said, okay, you've got to lock down and your money won't work if you leave your house. You can't buy gas in your car because your money is programmed with AI and software to enforce a whole set of centralized rules. And programmable money allows the bankers who've been running monetary policy to now control fiscal policy and essentially replace legislatures and executive branch by making and enforcing the rules through the money. Now that requires a large infrastructure of surveillance. So you need digital IDs, and then you need the hardware locally and globally to do the surveillance and implementation. So for example, if you look at the local hardware, and now people are seeing it, now that it's material, they're beginning to see it snap into place. So I don't know if you know flock cameras, but there are many communities across the United States that are entering into contracts paid by the taxpayers to put up cameras all around their neighborhood that track license plates and keep that data and share it with a variety of people. Or you have the FCC is trying to overrule local controls on cell towers, so they can literally put cell towers every 400 to 700 feet so that they can have the kind of invasive surveillance you need. Or you have satellites now that can literally beam in Wi-Fi, so that whether you have Wi-Fi in your home or not, they can start to track you. And all those systems put you in what I call the panopticon. So we saw in the Middle East with the first war with Iran, we saw 11 leaders out of 12 sort of top leaders in science and government assassinated because they're literally tracking everyone, and they can identify them and track them, and then you have invisible weaponry that can then take them out, or can identify missile strikes. So
let me ask you, so you're talking about the 12-day war against Iran in June of 2025.
Correct.
We were led to believe, just as newspaper readers or news consumers, that those 11 Iranian officials were targeted with human intelligence. That Israel had spies inside of Iran, but you're saying that was done digitally.
I would assume that that's probably true, because you always want to get human confirmation of what the systems are telling you. It's always better if you have both. But we are now moving into building out the kind of surveillance systems that can literally track, identify, and integrate with not only our existing weaponry, but ultimately autonomous weaponry. So let me step back. You've got three parts to the control grid. One is the local hardware and infrastructure, and that includes the data centers. Because if you...
The data? I thought those were for AI.
They are. Because if you look at what it takes to apply the equivalent of a social credit system to people's money, So the social credit system I apply to you is different than the one I apply to me. And if you look at the data I need to track you and test whether or not you're following the rules I've given you and enforce those rules, it's an explosive amount of data, particularly because you're looking not just at financial control, but spatial control. So what is AI good at, Tucker? AI is
Spatial control, movement control.
Yeah, so turn off the car. So Congressman Massey is trying to kill the kill switch in your car. That's because spatial control means I can turn off your car, or I can set it so your money won't work more than a mile from your home or a 15-minute city. So you're not allowed to leave your 15-minute city, and your transportation and your money won't work outside of that area. So let me step back. So what is AI good at? AI is very good at tracking things that can be expressed mathematically. And financial transactions and spatial movement can be expressed mathematically. And so what the AI centers are for primarily is to build that digital control grid and to manage that data. So, and now it can be used for many other purposes too. So it's not just going to be used for control. But to me, that's the primary purpose. And that, if you look at the cameras, if you look at the cell towers, if you look at the satellites, and then the AI, the data centers, those are all component pieces of the local hardware. So there are three sort of pillars that I track. One is the programmable money, and that's what we at Solari are trying to stop. The second is the digital ID, because you need digital ID systems that are interoperable globally, and then the local hardware. And those are sort of the three pillars. And what's interesting is there's phenomenal development of all three. We have a commentary at Solari where we track, it's called the Fast Approaching Digital Control Grid, and every week we update all the things that are being done to build those three pillars and have them integrate with each other. And ever since the inauguration, it's been moving very, very quickly. Now, it's both sides of the uniparty. They come at it in different ways and they do different things. But this is, ultimately what this is doing is this is going to a point where the central bankers, whether they do it with a central bank digital currency or private stable coins and asset tokens, are setting the world up so that they can control your financial transactions literally in real time with the equivalent of a social credit system.